Hello, beautiful beings. Sarah here. I am an intuitive healer, a spiritual teacher, a channel, a medicine woman. And I got this message from Spirit to come on and offer this talk today about the holidays as a mirror for where you're at. So I think this is such an important topic for us to tune into and check in to see where are we at right now during this time, because so many different emotions can come up during the holidays, no matter what holiday you celebrate or don't celebrate. A lot of people go through a lot of stress at this time of the year, loneliness, maybe financial struggles, maybe grief comes up for you at this time of the year. Um, Having to buy all these presents for people, or having to go to all these big gatherings when it feels overwhelming for you and you actually really don't want to, or not having any gatherings to go to. There's the full spectrum at this time of the year for many of us, and it can bring up a lot. And I think it's a great opportunity for us to look at ourselves and see what's coming up for us right now. Hello to everyone who's here live with me. Thank you so much for being here. Feel free to comment and, share what's coming up for you at this time. So there's a few different topics I want to chat about today. One of them is boundaries at this time of the year. The other one is self-care and how you're taking care of yourself. The other one is triggers, because we all know that for many of us, our families can turn on lots of triggers for us. And it's a really amazing opportunity for us to learn more about ourselves and to grow. And then also, what are your values? This is something that I was really tuning into for myself, and I'm excited to share more about that with you. So let's first talk about boundaries. I remember last year, one of my sisters was getting really overwhelmed and just completely just overwhelmed with so much. Just, I have this and I have this and I have this, and then I have to go to this place and I have to go visit my family here, and then I have my lover coming, and it was like, so much stress. And she said, this happens to me every time around the holidays. I get completely overwhelmed. I overcommit myself, and then I get overwhelmed and then don't know what to do with it. She's like, maybe next year I'm just not going to celebrate Christmas at all. And I was like, this sounds like actually a really great opportunity to check in with yourself more frequently before you commit to something. So, some of us were brought up that it's like rude to say no, or, that we feel guilty because this people-pleasing tendency inside of us that we can't say no to going to a certain event or to someone's house or to doing something for someone, even when we don't have the capacity to do it. And so it's a really great opportunity to check in with yourself every time before you make a commitment at this time of the year to see, do I really want to go to this? And sometimes we have to give ourselves that extra little push, maybe, if there's something that's really important and we actually truly want to be there for somebody that we really care about. But otherwise, you don't really owe anything to anybody. And so I think it's really important to keep checking in with yourself. Sorry, I keep looking outside because there's chickadees outside the window. They're really cute. But anyways, to keep checking in with yourself. So one great way to check in is to put your hands on your body. This is something I really love to do. Placing one hand on your heart, maybe one hand on your womb, perhaps both hands on your womb, whether or not you have a physical womb or not. You can place your hands there because it is an energetic space that can support you, and you can tune in to see, like, does this serve me? Should I attend this event? Or is it better if I kind of stay in and focus on me and focus on the ones I care about the most? Practice this. I highly recommend practicing connecting with your boundaries. Is this a yes for me, or is this a no? Your body often will tell you. Because for me, for example, when I check in with my body and it's a no, I feel contraction. Your heart might tighten, for example. Sometimes for me, my throat will tighten if it's a no. And then if it's a yes, often like I'll get tingles in my yoni, for example. And it's like, yes, this feels good. And I'm going to follow that yes. So highly recommend tuning in with boundaries and noticing, like, when you're exhausted and tired, that like you can leave a situation. Let's say you're at a party and, or a family gathering, and you're noticing like your energy is starting to crumble. You can tune into yourself and say, okay, it's time for me to leave now. I know for me, I'm extremely highly sensitive, and I used to, like, I love to party also. Like, I'm a Gemini, I'm very social, I love to be around people. But I used to overstay way too long at gatherings, and it would be too much stimulation on my nervous system. And I would end up having energy hangovers for like 2 or 3 days after. And so now I take time to tune in, or maybe that boundary is literally you just taking 5 minutes to go outside to breathe in some fresh air and have 5 minutes of alone time. So make sure to honor your boundaries and keep checking in with yourself throughout the season so that you don't burn yourself out or, create a lot of anxiety inside of yourself that's not necessary. Remember, you don't really owe anything to anybody at the end of the day. So that's boundaries. I would love to hear your feedback, your comments. How are boundaries for you? Does it feel difficult to set them? Do you have an ease with boundaries? I know this is an area that I've personally had to work on so much. I had so much guilt before when I would set boundaries, and I still notice deeper layers of that kind of pattern inside of myself, that it can feel really difficult sometimes to set boundaries. But I'm at this place now where it's like, I know I have to, because the repercussions, I'm not willing to put up with them anymore. Like I said, the fatigue, for example, for days after, just not willing to put up with that kind of strain and stress on my body and my nervous system anymore. So I'd love to hear your feedback on that. The next topic that I want to talk about is self-care and how you handle stress. So during the holiday season, again, for many of us, it becomes a very busy time of the year. Maybe you work a full-time job and you're having to close up all these loops at work before you go on holidays. Maybe you have a vacation coming up and like there's so much you have to take care of, or you're having guests over and you need to clean every nook and cranny of your house and prepare all this food, like whatever it is for you. There can be so many things on our to-do lists, presents that we have to take care of for others, things we have to make, all these things. And I think it's a really beautiful opportunity, again, to look at how are you taking care of yourself? Because if there's a lot of stress, like it's very high up on the stress, I feel like you need to increase the self-care all the way to that level. So for example, if that means dropping everything, taking time to go outside for a nature walk, for example. Nature is the most healing thing in the world, in my opinion. And getting out into nature, walking, watching water flow past you, listening to the birds chirp. This is an incredible and free way to release stress. So highly recommend taking time, especially this year, especially if you're living in a cold climate like I am, to get outside. It's so healthy for you and it's so healing. It helps release a lot of stress. Maybe your stress release practices are yoga, meditation, taking a nap, petting your cat. I've got 3 cats where I'm living right now, so I've got lots of cat time. But yeah, just find the ways. Maybe it's journaling, or one strategy I love to share with people that's helped me so much is to actually record voice notes to myself. When I'm feeling like a lot of emotion and it's feeling like a lot to hold, talking out loud to myself is actually really helpful. So you can record voice notes to yourself and then delete them after. You don't need to keep them. It's just this practice of like using your throat to express what's here for you and to get it out of you so it doesn't stay stuck inside. So what are your favorite self-care practices around this time of the year? I know, Christine, I know you're here, and it's probably breathing. And so actually I do want to suggest that breath work is an incredible way to move energy through our bodies as well. So it's like, find ways to outlet that stress, that overwhelm, that tension, that anxiety. Maybe there's sadness. Whatever is present for you during this time, find ways to move that energy through movement and self-care practices. So it's a good way for you to look at this mirror for yourself. Okay, how do I take care of myself in stressful times or, overwhelming times? Just going to read some of your comments. Yeah, Jovan says it happens to me every holiday. Yes. It's difficult for my family to accept the boundaries that I put in place. That's so true. It's so valid. And I can tell you that I've also experienced the same thing. And the more that you own those boundaries inside of yourself, like for example, not feeling guilty about setting the boundary in the first place, and like owning that your boundaries are valid. It's such deep work, the boundaries work. Like I said, I've been working on it for several years on very, very deep levels. But it's really about owning it inside of yourself and knowing that it's okay, like truly feeling that inside. And so if that's something that's coming up for you, keep looking inside deeper and deeper, and notice when you have to set boundaries, how do you feel? What comes up for you around it? And this will be a key to help you unlock more healing around that for yourself, and then to be met in your boundaries. Because I've noticed, like, as I've gotten stronger in believing, like, no, this is my boundary, the people around me respect my boundaries a lot better. I'll actually give an example. It's not related to family, but I'm super highly sensitive. And one of, the traumas that I still carry is around absorbing people's pain through touch. This comes from a very young time in my childhood. When my brother passed away, I would take on my mom's pain a lot for her through touch, through hugging her. And so I have noticed that I have to be extremely diligent for myself when it comes to touch in groups, especially. And at many of the spiritual gatherings, we're together in ceremony or practice, and we close out by holding hands with each other. And I noticed in many circumstances in my mind, I was like, oh, I don't want to hold hands. And I would do it anyways. And those were the times where I would absorb people's energy and pain the most, because I broke my own boundaries. And then it's happened in other circumstances where they were asking us all to hold hands, and I tuned in. The answer was no, I don't want to right now. And I didn't, and I just said to the group, I don't feel like holding hands right now. And then several of the women came up to me afterwards, and they're like, wow, like, thank you so much for honoring your own boundaries around that. They're like, that was so inspiring for me. And I had fear around being like, oh, she's too much. She doesn't want to hold hands. Like, that's too much, or whatever judgments might come towards me because of that. But I realized, like, it's so important to just honor where we're at with our boundaries, and know that they're okay and that they're valid. So that's been a big thing. And now I feel like I'm at this place where it's like that fear, that deep, like, fear doesn't come up so much around it. And I'm able to do that so much more. And I don't take on other people's pain so much, through that touch. But it's important to honor. And, it's something I've worked on and tried to heal many times. And that part of me is not ready to heal yet. And that's all I can do is honor it. So I hope that gives you a little bit of inspiration. Yeah, Christine says, totally. I don't even bother going anywhere. I have boundaries, but I know people don't. Yeah, I totally get that. And sometimes that can be a thing too. It's like we hold ourselves back from going places because we may shut down. I'm not saying this is true for you per se, but sometimes, like, those boundaries, it's really good to have boundaries. And it's also could be an inquiry to see, are my boundaries too rigid? Or do I just truly not want this? Like, am I protecting myself in any kind of way? Or are my boundaries too rigid? Or is this actually, like, honoring my highest expression and my highest truth? So great ways to keep inquiring and seeing what's true for you. So Christine says, my favorite is breathing and also dancing and moving around. So those are good ways to move energy and to, release stress and anxiety and all the buildup that comes. Ooh, I like that. Hot bath and a book is my zen. Feed my birds outside. Yes. I want to feed some birds outside. I'm going to do that too. Yeah. Definitely need some healing around boundaries and standing up for myself. Absolutely. It's a big one. Another person here is sharing, I feel everyone's emotions, even being in close quarters. Yeah, I can totally resonate with that. Sounds like you're quite highly sensitive and empathic, and it's a big journey to not take on everyone's pain and everyone's emotions and feelings, and to learn how to perceive it and let it go, or not even perceive it at all. There's so many layers, like, because I feel like this has been my greatest challenge in my life, is taking on other people's energy. And so I've been healing it in lots of layers, and it's been really beautiful to witness, actually. It's gotten so much easier and so much better over time. So yeah, if you feel called, like, definitely reach out to me, and we can set up a heart-to-heart if you want to chat, and we can chat about how I can support you in that, because it can make life really difficult when it's hard for us even just to be in rooms with other people, and we can feel everything and not be able to decipher, like, what's ours and what's theirs. It's my whole life pretty much. I struggled with serious fatigue and depression and anxiety because there were no boundaries basically in my field. I didn't realize that until much later, until the past maybe like 5 years or so, 5, 6 years, where that I didn't have any boundaries. But that means that everything comes in and everything goes out. So, and it's really unhealthy for us. So I'm very grateful to have healed many layers of that. So reach out if you feel. There's a link in my bio if you want to connect about a heart-to-heart call. Yes, especially with grumpy people. Keep your grinchiness away from me. Totally. Absolutely. And it's also knowing, like, people are grumpy for a reason. And to see if we can try our best to embody compassion for others, because we don't really truly know what someone's been through. So my cat's meowing and trying to scratch out of one of the bedrooms, so hopefully he stops. 2 more topics I wanted to chat about today. So another one is around triggers and family. So let me just take a little drink. And if you want to take a nice deep breath in and out, I highly recommend just placing your hands on your body and taking a nice deep breath. Okay, so triggers, especially with our families. Hi, families. Like, thank you. Thank you for being the greatest teachers ever for us, because I truly believe we choose our families, especially like our immediate family, like our parents and our siblings, if we have them. Our souls often have walked many lifetimes with those same people. So many times we have a lot of karma with these beings. I remember one friend in Costa Rica told me, it blows my mind still, this story. Her father wasn't there at her birth. He didn't want to come. And he wasn't really there for her throughout her life. And she had a session with this psychic, and this woman told her, you and your father have been rejecting each other 56 lifetimes in a row. So one lifetime you reject him, the next lifetime he rejects you, and back and forth and back and forth. And she's like, you get to choose now in this lifetime if you're going to break that pattern. It's just so empowering to see how, in relationships, we can really take ownership for the energy that we are bringing and contributing to that relationship. So much of it can be very subtle, like blame. Like we blame our families or our parents, that father that wasn't able to be there for us, the mother who, whatever, didn't love us unconditionally. And it's not to diminish any of that. All of that is so valid to have whatever feelings you're having around it. But it's also coming back into your power to see, okay, why is this here for me right now? What am I meant to learn from it? And so if you notice that your family doesn't honor your boundaries, to go back to that example from earlier, start looking inside to see, do you honor your own boundaries, for example? There's just so many things and examples that can come up around our triggers with our family. Anger, sadness, resentment, feeling lonely, feeling like they're not there for you, taking on the burden of taking care of them. Many of us, especially as light workers, we kind of were the parents for our parents when we were kids. So instead of being the kid, we were the parent. And that can bring up a lot of resentment. And so I highly recommend, when someone's triggering you, especially if it's your close family members, sit with it. Notice where you feel it in your body. Breathe through it and see, what's this here to show you? What pattern is it here to show you about yourself that you maybe keep repeating? What limiting belief is it here to show you that you're still carrying, or wound? And yeah, I think our families are great mirrors for us to see, okay, what wounds are we still carrying? And you don't always have to, work it out with them. Some of our family members are not able to actually work these types of deeper things out together. And so you can work with a healer, or maybe like a friend, have someone hold space for you, or do the work on your own as well to clear those energies and to alchemize them, to bring them back into love and empowerment. So I'm definitely looking forward to your stories over the next while of like how you're looking at your triggers with your family and with this holiday season, and to see how are you moving through them. Like, what do you notice and realize about yourself? So triggers, great mirrors. Thank you, family, once again. The last one that I've been tuning into for myself actually around the season, because I personally am not super busy. I'm not attending a lot of events. There's my family gatherings that are happening this year are pretty gentle and not as big as they used to be. And so I was kind of noticing that, like, okay, we're not going to have as many family members as we used to, like pre-COVID times. And my brother's away in Colombia, so it's going to be like me and my parents for Christmas Eve, and then some of my cousins on Christmas Day. It's going to be much quieter and different than it has been in the past. And so I was tuning into, okay, well, I don't really care that much about presents anymore. My parents bought me a Shruti box for Christmas, which I'm super excited about. Actually, that's an instrument from India. I'm super excited to get that in the mail and to play with that, which is amazing. But otherwise, it's like, yeah, when I was younger, I used to get so excited about presents. And now, it's not really about that so much anymore. So I was tuning in, like, what really matters to me. And for me, it's presence, not gifts, but presence, being together. And I was noticing that, a lot of my close friends, they're all quite conscious and have done a lot of inner work. And when we hang out together, like, no one's really checking their cell phones. Everyone's phone is like put away somewhere. Lots of times when I'm with my friends, like, I have my phone on airplane mode and I don't check it for like a whole day when I'm with them. And I was noticing at the last gathering with my family that everyone's on their phones checking and showing each other pictures, and everyone's phone is like sitting on the table. And this is just an invitation for more presence, like to be more in the moment. And that's what I realized is a big value for me. And so that's something I want to bring forward to my parents when we hang out on Christmas Eve this year. Is like, can we have an evening without turning the television on? And can we like play some card games, or with my mom, like we make crafts together, for example. And that's what feels actually quite important to me. So tuning into what are your values at this time of the year? What do you really care about? And how can you live out and walk those values? So I'm curious, what are your values? Like, is it like expression, connection, playfulness? Is it like food and nourishment? Like, what are your values that you would like to live by at this time of the year during this holiday season? Let me know in the comments. What matters the most to you? Oh, I love that. Creating memories with my family. Yeah. Beautiful. And that could look like going out on an adventure, for example, where I am, perhaps like, going on a nature walk in the forest here, or maybe it's for your family, like spending time by the water, or playing games and everyone's like dying laughing together. Like, those are memories, And so see if you can, because as you tune into what your values are, see if you can create experiences that enforce and reinforce your boundaries for this time of the year. So my beauties, today we've talked about, the holidays as a mirror for where you're at. It's a great opportunity to look inside and to see and notice, and just with consciousness and awareness and non-judgment as to what's here for you at this time of the year. Does it bring up a lot of stress, loneliness, grief? I didn't even talk about that aspect, that like there are certain people, many people out there who don't really have any family, or who spend the holidays by themselves, and that can bring up a lot of loneliness and grief. And so see if there's like some way that you can sparkle like a little bit of magic into someone's day. One of the things I'm doing in my local community is I offered 3 free sound healing sessions in the next few days for the first 3 people that reached out to me. And I was like, that felt really good, just because I know that people need this at this time of the year. And it's like, okay, I want to just offer that. So how can you sparkle a little bit of magic for the people in your life, and for the person at the grocery store, or at the shop that you go to, or the bus driver, or whatever it is? How can you sparkle a little bit more magic? And remember that not everyone has, people around them at this time of the year, and it can bring up so much. So we talked about, the emotions and energies this season can bring up for people. We talked about boundaries and overcommitting, having trouble saying no, and what that can result in, and really learning to own that for ourselves. We talked about self-care as well, and that it's important to, if the level of stress is really high, to up and increase the level of self-care as much as possible as well. different strategies and different ways we can do that. We talked about triggers and how our family can be our greatest mirror for where we're at and what we still need to heal inside ourselves. And also how we can embody, I also want to add in like to embody compassion as much as possible for yourself, for whatever is present for you, for the wounds that are coming up or the energies that are here, and also for everyone in your life. Because we all have a story. We all have wounds and limiting beliefs and conditioning and pain that we're carrying. And if we can come at something with compassion rather than like anger, like you need to change, for example, like that creates more spaciousness in just the energy of a situation so that, you know, peace can be found and created. And then lastly, we talked about values. So what values do you want to embody at this time of the year? What's important for you, and how can you kind of bring that into your life in a tangible way? So I'm just going to read some of the comments here. Expression and presence might be mine. I realized that I held off in my expression. Yeah, I've done that a lot too. It's the first time out of my parents' house and will be coming home for the holidays. Well, I hope that's really a beautiful time for you, Natalie. I hope it's really nourishing and yeah, that you get to create some beauty in your family and experience that together. Yeah, I also love going around speaking and smiling to people, Javan. I love it. So thank you so much for being here with me live. It's been a gift to come and chat with you. I really felt called to bring this topic forward. And I hope that it supports you, that you can move forward on during this time with new awareness and just more space inside of you. So I'm sending you all so much love. Feel free to reach out and DM me if you have any questions, and I will talk to you soon. Happy holidays, everyone.